fans, and welcome to another episode of Screaming Titans, the vlog series where a bunch of girls scream about Attack on Titan.
I love that a bunch is two.
Yes.
Yes.
And you made that joke last time, too.
Did I?
Yes!
God damn it.
It's okay, it's been a million years since we sat in front of the camera.
Yeah, it has.
Anyway, hi, I'm Megan Salinas.
And I'm Katie Cullen.
And we are here to talk about Attack on Titan episode 61, Midnight Train.
May or may not be going to Georgia.
I don't understand.
Midnight Train to Georgia, it's a song.
By who?
I don't know. Just because I remember part of it doesn't mean I know what I'm talking about. I just know there's a song about leaving on a midnight train to Georgia.
I think you just accidentally summarized every show we've ever been a part of.
So anyway, here's an idea. Can you back it up? No! Ladies and gentlemen, the Republican Party.
Oh, snap! Before we get into it, as always, if this is your first time on our channel, hello! Welcome to the show. We are only discussing episode 61 and all of the episodes that came before it. We know that the series is further along, we're catching up, but we are only talking about this episode, and we're not talking about anything that comes further in the manga, so please, no manga spoilers, and since we're behind on the anime, no anime spoilers either. Just generally speaking, no spoilers in the comments section, or you will be deleted and possibly blocked if you're a repeat offender. Please don't do that.
Oh,
I don't
no,
like being
no.
that person.
No. First offenders.
I don't want to be that person, but just please don't spoil it.
I will.
Please
I
don't.
mind.
Please. I am loving where this series is going. So please, please, please don't ruin the journey for us. This was a really good episode, and I would have hated if literally anything about this episode in particular had been taken from me prior to actually getting a chance to watch it and then rewatch it.
Also, don't be clever. There's always someone who's like, well, if I'm cryptic about this, and does a spoiler but does it in a way they think is cryptic. Here's the thing. There's always going to be someone more clever than you, or more clever than that particular comment. So in that way, you will have spoiled someone who is able to put the pieces together, whether it's us or one of your fellow commenters. So don't be clever, don't be cute, just follow the rules. Episodes 1 through 61 are fair game. Anything after that? No.
To give you an example, and I'm sure I've talked about this on this channel before, but when the first season of Game of Thrones was airing, I had not seen a single episode. The only thing I knew about it was that it was a show with Sean Bean in it, because that was what all the billboards in town were around. But towards the end of season 1, one of my coworkers went up to another coworker and said, "There are no honorable men left." Didn't even name drop Game of Thrones, didn't name drop any other characters, but after that moment, and spoiler alert for season 1 of Game of Thrones, I was like, oh, Sean Bean's dead. Huh.
Admittedly, the fact that they cast Sean Bean at all is kind of a spoiler that he's gonna die.
But he didn't name the show, he didn't name any characters, he wasn't even necessarily explicitly talking about television. He could have been talking about any sort of fictional series, but because we just lived in the world that we lived in, and because he happened to talk about Game of Thrones a lot, I was just like, oh, through very little context clues, I know exactly what he's talking about, even though he was trying not to spoil everyone around us.
So again, don't be clever. Also, because of the parallels this show is drawing, etc.
Yes.
This is going to go into a lot of subject material that, quite honestly, we are not qualified to talk about in an expert manner, in terms of education, in terms of life experience. We're not qualified to talk about a lot of what this show is depicting and the historical parallels that it is depicting. So please understand that this is not us attempting to say that we are experts on the subject or that we even know what we are talking about. This is us talking about what is happening in the show. And yeah, it's impossible not to bring up the historical parallels because that's kind of the point here.
Yeah.
But these are not expert opinions. We're fans of Attack on Titan, we're talking about Attack on Titan, and we both passed AP History.
Like, hey, BTW, I got a 5 on that test.
Mine was actually International Baccalaureate, so similar idea. I think I got a 5 on that, but the test was on a scale of 1 to 7.
Well,
IB is weird,
and
y'all.
I have a sociology degree, but basically, like, that's what my bachelor's is in. I was a double major with that and telecommunications, television production. So in theory, one would think I would have some idea of what I'm talking about, but the more you learn about a particular subject, the more you understand that you're like, oh no, I don't know jack.
This is why people specialize and get PhDs in their very specific specializations. Point being, we have an education. We have an American education. So
The mountain of student debt I have definitely says I got an education.
The point is, we are not experts on this, and we are not going to claim to be experts on this, and please do not take us to be experts on this. We will attempt to not say anything pants on head stupid, but because we are not experts, we cannot guarantee that everything we say will be completely accurate. It will be things that we remember, etc. So again, there is some sensitive ass subject material in here, which you would know had you watched the episode, and we're not going to pretend to be experts on any of it.
Yeah.
We're fans of Attack on Titan, and we have a basic-ass understanding of world history.
And
Or at least European history, as far as America's.
yeah, this whole series came to be because I watched Attack on Titan and I had feelings about it, and I wanted to talk
Yep.
about those feelings. So, well,
And then you dragged my ass into it after I said, nah, I'm not going to watch that series. It's too bloody for me. And then I saw you laughing your ass off with your headphones on because it was that point at which Titan Eren punched himself in the damn face.
it was really funny.
That was when I came into this show.
It was really funny.
Yeah. That's the point where I was like, nope, you gotta tell me what's happening. You're enjoying this a lot. And then here I fucking am. Point being.
And I think it also goes without saying that if you're watching Attack on Titan, you are very aware of the sensitive subject matters and that the show delves into. So if discussions of those sensitive subjects, you know, everything from historical atrocities to in the case of this episode, suicide, if those are upsetting to you, if those are triggering for you, maybe you don't have to don't worry about watching our silly little vlog series.
Go
Take
watch
care
the
of yourself.
Willy's Wonderland reaction on the channel. That one's just funny. It's animatronics and it's funny. And then let's also put this at the top of the episode while we're talking political stuff. If you are a Trump supporter, you can fuck off. Goodbye. This is the second time I've worn a pride shirt while we're recording this. It's like I'm making a point. If you are an active supporter, we have no room for that hatred. And if you are a passive supporter, we have no room for that destructive apathy. So if you agree with anything Trump has to say, you can leave. You can leave, or you can out yourself in the comments and get banned. But either way, goodbye. Everyone else, hi, we love you. Join us on this crazy train that may or may not be going to Georgia at midnight. Also, thank you, Georgia. We love you.
Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you so much. Okay, are those all the action items that we...
I think those are all the action items. There's a very long list for this show, but this show is a lot.
It didn't used to be that long. It used to just be like, hey,
Don't
no
spoil
spoilers.
us.
Okay, let's move on.
And now it's like, don't spoil us. We're not experts on historical atrocities. There's some upsetting subject matter, and fuck your feelings this time around, I guess.
Okay, so all business aside, moving on. This episode, this is one of those episodes where even though it's completely absent of Titan action, or ODM gear like aerial acrobatics, it's one that is completely devoid of any and all action spectacle, and it's all character driven, and it's exposition.
Perfect.
Yes, it's exposition.
It's almost perfect.
It's exposition heavy, and it's like, hey, this is going to be a world building episode, so we're going to throw a ton at you. My whiteboard is full.
We should take a picture of the whiteboard after we record, because this is, usually we have one column, it's a column, and then a separate one, and then we ran out of space there, so we had to go back up and make a third diagonal one. Like,
Well,
this show
usually when
is not fucking around.
Usually when I take notes, because we watched the episode twice, usually bullet points suffice. I couldn't do that for this episode because a lot of the world building was so detailed, specific, so instead of bullet points, I had to write out full sentences. So there's no room on the whiteboard at the moment. But I really like episodes like this. Like, too many of them can be overwhelming because, and can do a lot to kind of derail the pacing of a show. But in this moment here and now, I think this was like the perfect place to have an episode like this. And I really liked all the character stuff they did. What did you think?
I appreciate you. You're right in the placement of this episode. We had the beginning of this season that just threw us straight into the deep end. Here's the war, we're doing this, this is how this works. Like, we got some exposition that episode, but most of it was just, fuck it, let's go. This episode, I really appreciate. We've had some world building for Marley and for the Eldians and whatnot in our flashback episodes, in our Here's What's in the Diary in the Basement of the House that Jack Built episodes. I can't not make stupid jokes. That's why I'm here. That's why you keep me. We've had some world building for this, but to be able to come back and see this is what it's like 4 years later. This is how it's treating our characters. This is our new crop of characters. And this is what the greater country is like. This is what day-to-day life is like for Eldians. It turns out it hasn't changed all that much, which is not a good thing. But yeah, this was a very good time for us to come back and go, oh, okay, this is how things work. And seeing all of this, and seeing how they're treated, and seeing what happens, you take a step back, and you look at seasons 1 and 2, and you go, my God, that explains our Titan crew so much. So much.
Yeah, this is an illuminating episode.
That's a good word.
Where it's just like, oh yeah, this gives you some very needed context. Because I think for a lot of episodes, like leading up to this point, we would look at Bertolt and Reiner and be like,
what happened to you?
who hurt you? What? Yeah, who hurt you? Why are you like this?
When we first, when the dynamic that they have was first revealed, with Bertolt being the one that has to keep his feet on the ground because Reiner had that lovely little back and forth. He was having some trouble, man. He was having some massive psychological
dissociative
damage.
episode, basically.
Yeah. Like, between we're warriors and we're friends. Like, there was no... He was having a lot of trouble.
He was having a lot more difficulty with the cognitive dissonance of their circumstances than I think Annie or Bertolt had. Like, for whatever reason, they were able to... They didn't have as much trouble with that cognitive dissonance, but it was a lot for Reiner. He couldn't deal with it.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And now we come back and we see how the families are treated, how the military is treated, what they do with their cadets, and it's just like, okay, this explains so much. Holy shit! Nobody's okay, and it's the government's fault. I'm sorry, I just described America again.
One thing I really liked about this episode, and it's something that, like, when it comes to anime, I'm just sort of absorbing passively. You know, a lot of shows that I'll watch without having to do reaction videos for, without having to do vlog series on. If I'm just watching a show, if I'm watching it subbed, a lot of times I will miss a lot of visual nuance, or a lot of cinematography because I'm so laser focused on the subtitles. And again, not that subtitles is a deal breaker. Everybody in America should watch more things with subtitles.
Subtitles can't be a deal breaker if you're an anime fan.
Well,
you can have a preference.
Look,
but
and I'm not here to be like, oh, subs are better than dubs, because they're not. It really is a case-by-case basis, and both are fine.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of non-anime fans would really be doing themselves a greater service to watch more like foreign films and foreign TV shows. And so like
the 1-inch high barrier of subtitles.
yeah, exactly. So I definitely, it's like I said, it's not a deal breaker, but a lot of times if I'm watching something and not engaging with it critically, I'll miss a lot of stuff because I'm focusing on the subtitles. And this goes for English shows too, because I like keeping the captions on. Because I want to know,
like, the fuck did they just say?
horror movies in
Nothing
particular.
like watching Turn and being like, well, it's in English.
Speaking of things that we should have been more educated on before watching the show.
God.
But the
And like, we get it if you can't do subtitles. I have a friend who is mildly dyslexic and gonna go back on these subtitles can't be a deal breaker thing. I was wrong. Subtitles are a deal breaker for her because she literally can't.
Yeah.
So, like, I get it.
But if you are able to though, you
Yes.
shouldn't let it discourage you. Make
the effort.
In horror
It's
movies
worth
in particular, a lot of times sound mixing issues will make it really difficult to pick up on things. So I like keeping the captions on even for English shows. But because of my focus on the words that are on the screen, a lot of times I will miss a lot of visual nuance, which is really why I liked going back and rewatching this episode, because there were a lot of really great transitions. Like, a lot of episodes of Attack on Titan are really cinematic and really well put together. This one was really well constructed as an episode. The transitions were really good. A lot of the visual storytelling was really good. Like, even just that opening scene where they're having this discussion about the Marleyan military industrial complex and how their reliance on Titans, you know, the rest of the world is catching up with them and they're gonna have to do something in order to not appear weak, because the foreign press has basically called them out on this fact of like, hey, we're catching up.
There's comments about, like, yeah, we're still unparalleled in ground battles, but in terms of sea and air, like, the way that air technology is going, soon bombs will be dropping like rain.
And all of them are looking up up towards the ceiling. And
the first time we watched it, we're like, okay.
like,
And then that pan shot to that huge hole and the ceiling is missing, and it's just like,
yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff like that in this episode. It's like, that's really good. This is really good stuff.
there's one point where we're like, the fuck was that scene?
Yeah.
But we will get to that.
We will get to that. But during this back and forth, General Magath, I think is how you pronounce the
Commander
guy's
General
whatever.
something.
Magath. He
Magatha.
still sucks. He still sucks. But he's oddly one of the only people that shows any sympathy towards the Eldian troops. I don't think that necessarily he sees them as people. I think he very much views them as assets. But it's weird to look at him and be like, he's one of the better ones when it comes to how these people are treated.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, he's an 8. Everyone else is a 10.
Ugh.
You're still
in
on
terms
the
of
scale.
how terrible you are.
Yeah, 1 being you're a good person and 10 being like, ah! So yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, and on that scale, most people are 10s. He's an 8. He's still pretty fucking terrible, but he's not as bad as he could be. Kudos.
Ooh.
I have no
But
patience for this shit.
yeah, no, this is like we said, this is fucking rough. But while they're having this back and forth, Zeke the Wonder Boy,
Zeke's a Wonder Boy.
as he's referred to, gives a pitch and he's like, hey, what if, now hear me out, because we're going to have to restructure our military. That is a given. Like, that's just a fact, because
We have to move with the times.
time marches forward and it waits for no man. So we're going to have to restructure our military, but in order to give us time to do that, hear me out. He's like, you know my failure from 4 years ago? Well,
What if?
What if we captured the founding Titan and totally captured that island and everything was cool and nobody ever looked at me as though I was a failure again? How does that sound?
The press is going to talk about us like we're amazing because we got the founding Titan back, and that's all they're going to talk about. They're not going to talk about how our military-industrial complex is a little bit outdated because we're relying on manpower and also some really horrific shit. But they're just going to talk about how we succeeded. So how about that? And also, I don't think my successor is going to do as good a job as I am, so you should really let me do it.
Isn't it really gross the way they talk about how like the rest of the world is catching up? And they're like, we were the heroes who overcame, you know, the Titan threat, and now look at us. And it's just like, you've subjugated an entire group of people.
History is written by the winners.
You're gross.
History is written by the winners.
You're so gross.
Oh, but it's okay. They're not people.
Oh my god. But so Zeke gives this pitch.
Still no patience for this.
And he kind of throws Colt under the bus.
Oh,
he's like,
absolutely.
He's not going to be able to like fully inherit my powers in a year when my time is, because I've got 1 year left.
It's like, he's not going to be as good at this as I am. And you know it, and I know it. And I kind of think he knows it now too. So you should let me do this, and it'll be great. And if I fail, I won't have to live to see the consequences.
Did
not say the quiet part loud there, but let's be real, that is the quiet part.
And so he and Colt, you know, after the meeting, they go out for a smoke, and Colt doesn't feel bad about being thrown under the bus at all. He's literally in awe of the fact that Zeke was able to speak his mind during this meeting, that he was given permission to speak his mind. Which, considering how in awe he is, it's like, oh, wow, that's really shitty. That's really shitty.
We only pretend that you're people.
And while they're talking, like, the idea that once Zeke's time is up and Colt becomes his successor, the idea that the Beast Titan won't be as powerful anymore, they seem to be perplexed as to why Zeke is special. And so we were wondering...
Colt's like, it's not like you have royal blood. I'm like, does Zeke know?
Does he?
Does Zeke know?
I legit don't remember if he knew that his mom was a part of the royal family.
I don't
either. Remember.
I have to wonder if it's one of the things that Grisha told him, because Grisha knew. So I feel like if it was something Grisha told him, it's something that he would have said when he betrayed them.
It's hard to say because we don't know how much Zeke was told.
True.
You know, we don't know how much Grisha let him in on.
He told him quite a bit from what I remember of the flashback episode.
Yeah.
Like, enough to be like, no, this is the real history we've been lied to.
But yeah.
Go back and look at that at some point.
I feel
Anyway.
like, here's the thing. I feel like if that was a detail that was shared with Zeke, that would have been something he then passed on.
Yeah.
He would not have
wouldn't
kept
be
that
sitting on that.
out of all, you know, because he spilled the beans, as far as we know, entirely. That's not something he would have kept close to the chest.
Yeah.
Unless it's something that only a very few select people within the military know. And he's just like feigning ignorance when it comes to discussions with the rest of the Titan shifters.
Again, that again leads to me wondering about them picking up blonde-haired people. Like,
maybe, I don't know. But one of the things, one of the things that that gets mentioned as Magath comes in to interrupt their conversation, they start talking about how, you know, what the status of the island has been over the last couple years. Gesundheit.
Thank you.
And, you know, it's one of those things where we're sitting here going, like, how are Eren? How's Mikasa? How's Armin? How's literally everyone?
And they're like, we lost 32 ships. None of them ever came back from that island. And I'm like, Hanji's out here inventing ship-killing stuff, and I'm here for it. I'm sure that there's also Titans involved with fucking up the ships, but let's be real, Hanji is also inventing ship-killing things, and I am here for it.
It's one of those things where it's like, oh, what if we missed? You know, with our regular crew of boys and girls during the last couple years. Like, we're getting caught up and let in on a lot of things on Reiner's side of the shore, but we don't know yet what's been going on back on the island with our regular crew. So, and I'm legitimately
Honestly,
wondering.
I think our crew is here.
Maybe. I'm legitimately wondering how. I want you to explain, but I'm legitimately wondering how long we are going to withhold seeing Eren and Armin and Mikasa and the rest of the gang. How long are we gonna hold back on all of that? Because we're here on this side of the shore and focusing on all of these people to humanize them and really understand the plight that they're going through and how they've been, basically conditioned, into how
Their own dehumanization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. What do you mean? Are they already here? Like, just
Are they
hanging
already
out?
here?
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody. Here's the thing: the only people who know what they fucking look like are Reiner and Zeke, and possibly Cart.
Definitely.
I don't think she got a good long look at them. Let's be real. She knows what the Titans look like, but she was always at a distance.
Well,
I don't think Reiner has the fear of Mikasa in him. Let's be real. And Zeke has the fear of Levi in him. For very good reason. Ackermans are very good at putting the fear of themselves into other people.
It's
Not
on my
God,
board.
themselves.
it's on my board. Ackermans are scary.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Nobody over here actually knows what they look like. Mm-hmm. And we are not unfamiliar with the idea of changing one's appearance to fit in. And Hanji is a very intelligent human being. I'm sure they'd come up with that.
Yeah.
So, why not?
Armin too.
Yeah. Why not send a ship over? Why not make them sleeper agents? Why not? It's always good to have spies when you're going to war, and they don't know very much about this, and all that they do know is a decade out of date, at least.
I guess the question...
Why not send at least some of them over? And I mean, at the end of the first episode, we were focusing on a dude in a hat with a newspaper who walked away from the camera. Do we know who that person is? We did
not talk about him. And so, yeah, there's that guy. And even, it's jumping ahead a little bit, but there was a moment where Reiner and the kids are walking off to head to the train to go back home. And there is very clearly a silhouette in the foreground watching them. And I assumed that it was Cart, or Peak, I think is how you say her name. I assumed it was her, both times watching it, up until I had to rewind to catch a line. And then I was like, wait a minute, is that her? Or is that someone else entirely? It could have been Mikasa. It could have literally been anyone.
Anyone. And so I'm sitting here going, they know that they have to go over there and basically wreck shop in order to earn their own freedom. They're in a kill or be killed situation with this entire country.
Yeah.
Why would you waste 4 years? Information gathering is fucking crucial. Why would you not send a handful of people who generally wouldn't otherwise be recognized over there? As long as you keep the more recognizable people in the scouting corps out of line of sight from the 2 people who were, by the way, participating in a war somewhere else. And keep them out of the line of sight from the 2 people who could recognize them.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on whether or not they could get a ship there unnoticed.
Who said they'd have to use a ship?
Yeah.
Many other ways, and also smaller ships, and also
I'm not
there's
saying
so many options.
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm also just saying that this is a military that routinely would send. Although they did straight up say that they are more focused on their army than on their navy or air force. So
yeah,
maybe. But I imagine they would have decent security at least on some of their shores because of the whole island thing.
Plus,
But
Titans can walk underwater.
yeah, they absolutely can. There is an entire ending sequence of this show showing Titans emerging from the ocean. So yeah.
basically, that's where I am for that. I think some, if not all, of our humans are actually over here living incognito.
And even if they're not, we know we know for a fact that there is an Eldian resistance. We know a lot of them got captured and turned into Titans and sent to the island, because of Grisha's backstory. But just because those people got captured doesn't mean that that was the end of the Marleyan resistance, or the Eldian resistance. It's entirely possible that our island crew is in contact with a lot of those, people who are trying to, basically like this underground resistance. Like, they could be in contact with them, and they could be their eyes on the ground for everybody on the island crew. Like, they might just have some...
Point being, our strategic
There's a lot of
people...
focus on birds. What are they using carrier pigeons to relay information back
The
and forth?
pigeon can make it all the way across the ocean. That's a long-ass flight.
No.
Point being, our lovely people on the island aren't fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And in fact, we have some incredibly intelligent people on that island.
Yeah.
Why would they not be working to get information so that whatever they choose to do or are able to do to fight is updated? They're not going to get taken by surprise yet.
It's also entirely possible that the point of the man with the newspaper and the silhouetted figure in the foreground and the scene towards the end of the episode, it may very well be not meant to establish that our boys and girls are keeping tabs on the Titan crew. It could very well be just that there are always eyes on them, because their own government is watching them very, very closely.
This is also
and
true.
perpetually in a state of readiness, because on the off chance that they might be planning something. So yeah, there's a lot.
So I
there's a
derailed
lot.
this about 5 minutes to
No,
time in.
it's okay. So meanwhile, as Zeke is talking about how the Titans aren't the only ones to be afraid of on the island because Levi and Mikasa exist, Reiner wakes up from a nightmare.
Of Mikasa coming for it.
Because she won't miss again.
She won't.
And so he wakes up and realizes that Galliard, aka the Jaws Titan, is there in his room. And he drops a lot. This is one of those scenes where it throws a lot of info at us immediately. One, he's Marcel's brother, the guy that saved Reiner from Ymir back in the day. And so there might be some lingering resentment there. And this sucks because
I'm so mad about
this is the scene where we find out what happened to Ymir. And it turns out that the Jaws Titan actually, it was Ymir's power. So our count from the previous episode was off completely.
For more than one reason, as it turns out.
Yeah. And so...
Thank you guys for not fucking spoiling that for us. Appreciate that.
But yeah, Galliard is the Jaws Titan. He took Ymir's power and as a result also has her memories. So he knows how Reiner acted on the island during all that time when he was undercover. And so it's his assertion that Reiner was actually imitating his brother Marcel. And that's why he always seemed like such a stand-up, reliable guy. Don't get me wrong, I think the introduction of this character is a cool thing, especially in a way to tie it back to those flashbacks from earlier seasons. But this fucking sucks, man. Ymir was so cool. I'm so upset.
When we covered season 2, I think it was. There was, because at that point we had read the manga, and hilariously, our access to the manga cut off right where season 2 ended. So that, serendipitous.
That worked out okay.
Season 2 was also where we got the episode that had all of Ymir's backstory. And I'm wondering if it isn't at this point in the manga where we get all of that. And then she dies. Because we had been
Yeah.
told that it had been taken from a later point in the manga and put here for the anime. So that makes me wonder if that isn't the case structurally.
And if it's not, and if it's
Don't
going to ruin
tell
something,
us.
please don't tell us. This is just us spinning our wheels.
Spitballing, yeah, but I'm real mad. She fucking died off screen. Like, what a shitty way for a great character to go out.
Now,
Come the fuck on.
it's upsetting for a number of reasons.
Especially since part of that was, well, we don't know where Amir is. She could be doing anything. And it's, oh yeah, we'll bring you back. You'll be
Well,
part of this. It'll be great.
And her relationship with our queen, Krista, was so great. But like,
Historia now.
oh yeah, oh my gosh, it's been a million years.
I know, right?
But like, it sucks. It sucks because to have such a cool character killed off in such
Unceremonious.
in such an unceremonious way. It's bullshit. However, I will say, to the series' credit, death isn't necessarily the end of the line for a Titan Shifter character, because it was very heavily implied when Armin woke up that something of Bertolt remained.
Yeah.
So,
And we've got the controller, which is connected to all
Yeah.
Titans past and future, which is like, okay.
yeah. But, like, so it's entirely possible that this isn't the last thing we're going to see from Ymir, but knowing that she's dead and that she's been dead for a while really fucking sucks.
It's one of those things where it's like, I get it. I'm mad.
Yeah.
But I get it.
Yeah. It's one of those things too where like I can't really be mad because it's like she knew what was going to happen. She knew exactly what was in store for her when she chose to go back with them. And it's not like they would want to keep her around too, you know, like she's
Too much of a wild card.
Yeah, it's exactly. So I can't really be mad per se, but I'm mad.
Oh yeah, no. You can recognize that it makes sense within the story and still be like,
Yeah. It's just one of those things where because it was treated like a cutaway, that where it's like,
she'll be back. Lol JK.
it's just one of those things where it's like, would we feel differently if an entire episode had been devoted to this, or is it better to have it just be like, nah, she's gone, get used to it. And I don't know.
Honestly, I would have kind of loved it if it had just been like at the end of an episode somewhere in the middle of season 3.
I
Because
don't know.
Titan's real good at fucking with us.
I mean, that's what it's doing now. Like,
Yeah.
it's like here's a character who got multiple episodes devoted to them, and they died unceremoniously off screen. And yeah, in a way, it's doing that exactly. It's fucking with us a bit because it's like, oh hey, this character that you cared about, they're gone now.
Goodbye. So
Get used to it.
That was definitely a moment of pause the episode. The fuck?
Yeah, no.
The fuck?
I hope that's not the last word on the subject. I hope we get more because she was an important character and she meant a lot to Historia in particular. So I hope that's not the end of Ymir's story, but at the moment that's the end of
We'll see.
Ymir's story. And,
Yeah.
and we're allowed to be upset.
We'll see.
We'll see. But anyway, you know, as Galliard is just laying into Reiner, just being like, oh, you suck, who comes in but Peak? I think, again, I'm not sure at all if
Yeah.
that's how you pronounce any of these names, but that's where Peak comes in, who, aka the Cart Titan, aka Perry the Platypus.
Yeah.
We've been calling
Oh, there
her
you are, Perry.
We've been calling her Platypus Titan.
For a while.
And she dropped some interesting little tidbits as well. She had been the Cart Titan for the last 2 months, and as a result, it takes a toll on her body. Like she has trouble walking upright bipedally afterwards. And so,
Yeah, she walks with a crutch.
exactly. And she like, I don't
She's
know.
great.
I don't know what I was expecting from this character, but she is lovely. She's like, hey, quit picking on him. Don't be mean.
You're not allowed to pick on people who took cannon fire to the face. Like, that's a really funny line.
Yeah, no, she seems like a good, even though, like, you know, last season we were like, Platypus Titan, no! Because we really wanted Levi to have killed Zeke.
Yeah, it's just like, ugh.
But then we actually get to see the person that she is, and it's just like, oh. And
She was taking care of a friend.
And that's, I think, the point of this entire season is, yeah, humanizing these characters who we were rooting for their downfall just a season ago.
And now we're sitting here going, boy, nobody wins.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I immediately like her. I immediately think
Want
that
to
she's...
defenestrate Galliard. But,
Well, no.
oh no, I get him. He just annoys me.
Well, it's upsetting because he's the reason we lost Emir, but at the same time, she killed his brother. This is also true. She killed his brother, and he has every right to not really care for Reiner after that.
At which point we return to nobody wins.
Yeah, that was, and it's not like it was Reiner's fault. Marcel made the choice to push him out of the way, and it's not like it was Emir's fault either.
She was literally Jaws.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it was Jaws and then she became Jaws.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And so, like, again, this is a situation where there are no winners and it's not great. But, so, you know, she tells him, hey, basically stop picking on this guy. And then Reiner goes out to check in on the kids. Udo, Zofia, Gabby, and Falco. And they're all sort of, you know, having seen the destructive power that other militaries are capable of and what that did to Reiner, like, they're sort of contemplating what their future is. Like, hey, if the way of the Titan is, like, it's going away, what does that mean for the warrior program? What does that mean for us and our futures? Like, are we still going to be able to get all the things we're striving for the sake of our families?
Yeah. And I appreciate Udo's little bit here, like, the rest of the world is going to see this and they're going to be talking about the brutality of Titan warfare and how bad it is and how Eldians are terrible and how we're devils and, like, he's got a pretty good grasp on the socio-political implications of all of this.
Something
like,
good
I've kind of pegged him as the Armin of this group. Like, he gets it.
Yes.
In a scary way.
Something good for the Marleyan military isn't necessarily good for the Eldian people as a whole, you know?
And I'm, you know, given wartime journalism and what we have going on here and the time period it's reflecting, etc., I doubt there are too many think pieces on our Eldians being used as a tool of the Marleyans. Like, we know for a fact that they are, but we got this nice little bird's eye view on the whole situation. So...
Yeah, I mean, like, the one bit we got from somebody from a completely different country, even a person from that country was like, hey,
don't touch me, you'll corrupt me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on the one hand, it's like, would someone from another country see that these people are being used as weapons of war? Yeah, maybe. Is it hard to humanize the people who turn into gigantic monsters and eat you? Yes, definitely. So, I can see why there wouldn't be any sympathy, even for people who might be able to put two and two together and go, hey, you know, this might not be the greatest for them either.
Yeah. And to be fair, that sample size is very small, and it was from a soldier participating in war, as opposed to like a journalist or somebody else, or a civilian who wouldn't be involved in any sort of military engagement.
And again, why would anyone else know how Eldians are treated in Marley? I doubt that is widespread information.
Yeah, no, I'm sure, even though the international press is a thing, I'm sure Marley only puts out news that it wants to put out.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, these guys suck.
Anyway, so
but yeah,
Udo gets it.
Udo gets it. Out of all of the kids in the Warrior program, Zophia's kind of a question mark, but out of all the kids, he and Falco actually seem to be pretty hyper aware that...
Of the bullshit.
Yeah, of the bullshit. That being said, Reiner comes out and, oh man, do these kids just think the world of Reiner. Gabby in particular. And yeah, they are just so excited to see him, not only because they're glad that he's okay, but because they legitimately look up to him. And it is so interesting seeing a character like Reiner viewed at, like, from the viewpoint of kids who look at him as...
Babin.
Yeah, I mean, like, these are kids who think he's, like, the coolest dude in the world.
And considering that they are all vying to eat him in about a year...
What a weird way to put it.
Like I said, I can't not make terrible jokes. It makes sense that they would spend a lot of time with him.
Yeah.
Because, like, oh, they're all vying to become the Armored Titan, so he would be the one telling them, okay, this is how it works, this is how this is the best way to do this. Like, giving them the notes, essentially, the hands-on experience, the training, so that when one of them inherits it, they're not flying blind.
Yeah.
And they'll also have his memories, but it helps to know what you're doing going in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it makes sense that they love him. They've probably spent a ton of time with him.
Yeah.
Gabby more so than most.
Yeah. And there's this very brief moment where all of the kids are talking and Reiner's looking on from a little ways away, and we get this quick flashback to him seeing all of his friends, Galliard, Marcel, Bertolt, and Annie, when he was a kid, and how he was... it's weird, because he seemed, out of everybody, to be, like, kind of the awkward one. Yeah, and so it's just such a juxtaposition, like, seeing how he presented himself during training.
But the characterization makes sense if he had already had that break and was presenting himself as someone he wasn't. Like, that characterization of him on the outside, uncertain about things, it makes sense then that he would be the one to break. Just in terms of narrative, where you can see how we got from point A to point B.
Yeah, and it's, again, for all of the terrible things that Reiner has done, this series is taking a lot of time to explain why he is the way he is, and to very much humanize him. Again, not to justify the terrible things that he's done, but to explain and show just how deeply it's affected him. I swear, every single time the camera cut away to him just kind of being by himself, anytime he was just on his own, he looked so fucking sad. All the time.
And it's like, you look really tired, my dude.
Yeah.
There's probably a really good reason for that. It's almost like being a child soldier is bad for your health. Anyway.
Yeah.
But
I really like them taking the time to explore this particular characterization, especially if, like, he isn't going to be around
too much longer.
And, like, if one of these kids really is going to inherit his power before we can have our rematch with Eren, like, that, it's going to be interesting.
We don't know if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, we legitimately don't know. Eren and company could show up, and we could get, classic Armored Titan versus Berserker Titan, the rematch, the showdown again, or... Reiner could pass on his powers to most likely Falco, and they could have a quote-unquote rematch, and Falco would then have all of those memories and all this understanding of what Reiner went through, which basically the rest of this episode is an exploration of what Reiner went through.
I honestly think that in either of those fights, Eren would have the advantage.
Probably.
Because Reiner's had to go do other shit, and Eren has been like...
Well,
like, I can focus on it. Like, I do think Eren would have the advantage.
And it depends on whether or not Eren's abilities have also changed and increased and everything like
Yeah.
that.
Aaron would have had the opportunity to focus and to grow, whereas Reiner just would have been like, well, we're in this other war now, so do the same
Yeah.
shit you always do.
Yeah.
You tool of the government, you.
Anyway. Yeah, so
Anyway.
they're watched by a shadowy silhouette, question mark, what are you doing? Question mark, question mark. And then they hop onto the midnight train to head back home to their hometown of Liberio. And Colt, bless him, is regaling all of the other Eldian soldiers about the tale of their savior, Gabby. And
It's like, she put herself in danger to save all y'all's asses.
and
Basically.
she is
He drunk.
He drunk, and she's a hero. And the entire group just goes wild. They lift her up on their shoulders. They're cheering for her. They're making a huge commotion, and all of the officers in the regular
The
carts,
train
yeah.
is divided, and we get a long shot of it,
Yeah.
and you can see that it's 3 cars that are meant to have passengers, and they've got like tables and chairs and niceties, and then a shit ton of cattle cars. It's very much,
Yeah.
these are the cars for people, for the people, and for those who are people adjacent, and these are the cars for the not people. Again, we're not qualified to talk about a lot of this, but oh buddy, shoving humans in cattle cars!
It's one of those things where, you know how I was talking at the beginning of our discussion about how there's a lot of visual storytelling in this episode? That was one of them.
Oh yeah.
It was a really excellent example of visual storytelling here, so kudos show for making me feel feelings.
And we also get to see that for one, they explain the shorthand with the colors on the armbands. If you are red, you are people adjacent.
Yeah,
generally
you are an
either
honorary citizen.
honorary citizen, people adjacent. So you are either a Titan shifter or a direct family member of a Titan shifter. Yellow is you are a cadet. You have the potential to become.
You
a
are in the
shifter.
warrior program.
Yes. It's like either you have been chosen or you're on your way, or you're a family member of one thereof. White is you're not a
Or
people.
gray. Yeah, you're
gray,
just
white, cream colored.
You're a regular Eldian not person, which is
Yeah. So
Super.
those who are people adjacent or have red bands are allowed to be in the people car, and everyone else is not allowed to be in the people car. Which makes it interesting that our other Titan shifters are chilling in the people car, and Reiner chooses
Yeah.
to be in the cattle cars with everyone else.
Zeke, Galliard, and Peak are in the cart with all of the rest of the officers, who, again, to Maggot's credit, he's like, hey, no, just let them have
Don't
their
quiet
fun.
them down. Let them have this.
Let them
one.
have their
It's
fun for
fine.
one night.
Yeah.
So again, he's not the worst.
He's an
Not
8, not a
great.
10.
Not the worst, not great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very telling that Reiner, and maybe it's just because Reiner has a really great connection to all these kids, or he wanted to stay and hang out with his cousin. But yeah, it's very telling that he stays in the cart with everybody else, or maybe he just genuinely speaking, like, doesn't like hanging out in the people cart. I don't know. Again, every time we cut away to him on his own, he's just always sad. So maybe he just doesn't want to be in the cart with the rest of the quote unquote citizens. But anyway, he and Falco end up having this discussion while the rest of the cart is
Losing their shit.
losing their mind,
Partying down.
how fucking fantastic Gabby is, and she's so cute. Like they're all cheering, Gabby, Gabby, and she's like, me. It's really cute. But like, he and Falco start having this discussion about how she's a shoo-in to inherit his powers, and Falco goes, yeah, and she'll die at 27. Cool. That's great. And
then Reiner just
he pulls a Mikasa and puts the fear of him into Falco.
less the fear of him and more the fear of
Yeah.
the system. And he makes it very clear, like, if I reported you for saying that, you and your entire family would be put in the Titan Weapons program, which is what we saw in the previous episode, getting dropped from a plane.
It's a very real moment to remind, I guess, both Falco and to basically reinforce to the audience what a fucking razor's edge every single one of these people have to walk. They are all on a political tightrope of like, I have to present myself as this potentially 100% of the time I'm around anyone. Even when I think I'm just around people like me, like
Because anyone could betray you to get a leg up.
Yeah.
Depending on how they are. This
or
situation.
how fucking brain, like whether it's to further their own means or whether or not they're just fucking brainwashed and they think it's the right thing to do.
And I think this was very much Reiner reminding him of that. I
Yeah.
don't think this was a threat that has teeth
Oh
from
yeah, no.
him.
Reiner wouldn't.
But it's very much if anyone else heard you say that,
Yeah.
this is what would happen.
But-
and you know it, and I know it. Keep your nose to the grindstone, stay out of trouble, and you need to be the one to inherit this Titan power. I don't want Gabby to get it. You need to
Yeah.
save her from this hell.
Yeah, and
It's like, okay, no fucking pressure, dude.
yeah, and that again, I think goes a long way into showing just kind of what Reiner's character arc has been and how far or specifically where his character arc is going.
He knows how bad this is. He doesn't want his cousin to go through with it, even though it's painted as this extremely high honor. Like,
Yeah.
he knows how fucked it all is. But
Yeah.
he can't say anything about it.
Yeah,
Because
and-
they just pick someone and kill him.
Yeah, and Falco starts wondering to himself, like, I wonder if Reiner is in the same place as me and wants a way for Eldians to completely escape war. Does this person I look up to and admire also want the thing that I want?
And we can't talk about it safely.
Yeah.
Pretty much ever or anywhere.
Yeah, because you never know who's fucking listening. And so there's that. But then they get back home to Liberio, and everybody gets reunited with their families. And this is where we're just like, oh, jeez.
boy.
This entire season is going to be really painful.
Because, like, oh, everyone's people. Shit.
we're spending so much time developing these characters and their families and where they're coming from that by the time the conflict between the characters we already know and love erupts, it's gonna be devastating. And again, I get it, that's the point, but it's still just like, oh.
It's a little AVP. No matter who wins, we lose.
Only less fun.
Yeah, and we
Less horror movie schlock and more, oh no!
And we get a little bit from Falco, who sends his extremely hungover older brother and presumably his parents on ahead and says, I'll catch up, and goes to a line of soldiers who are all not okay. 1,000 yards stare, hands over their heads,
Yeah.
freaking out. Like, they have, in World War One, it was called shell shock, but it's PTSD.
Yeah.
Basically. And the guy who's there, whom I'm assuming is military personnel and not an Eldian, because one, he's cruel, and two, I didn't see an armband.
No.
Comments like, yeah, they're freaked out. They're freaked out. They have mental damage from being at the front lines too long, from digging trenches too long. It's all the bullets and bombs that'll get you. And he just turns around and yells, boom! And all of them collapse. And it's just...
Jesus.
Oh, and God, poor Falco. He's trying so hard to reassure people, like, it'll be okay, it's okay, you're safe now. Hey, your armband's on the wrong arm, let me fix
He's
that
such
for
a
you.
good
You're
boy.
home. Like, he is a soft boy. He is a cinnamon roll. You don't send cinnamon rolls to war. God. So, we get this character development from, well, less character development and more revealing it to the audience about he really cares. Like, he cared for that enemy soldier even though the soldier was protesting, and he cares for his fellow soldiers who have PTSD because of their, I assume, forced
Yeah.
experiences at the front line.
He wants to succeed in the program that he's in. Like, Gabby even makes fun of him, like, oh, you're trying to get extra credit. He wants to succeed in the program that he's in, but that's because he genuinely cares about people around him. And, whether that's to the people around him clearly extends to enemy soldiers, too. It's just like, if he sees a person in front of him, he cares.
He's a compassionate human being.
It's almost like
not
this
a
kid
bad
has
thing.
empathy or something. But
Basic
no.
human empathy. Who'd have thought?
But and this is one of the episode's examples of a fantastic transition because we go from this cruel, awful man yelling boom to scare a bunch of
Soldiers with PTSD.
yeah, soldiers who, again, probably did not have a choice to sign up for the military. To Gabby regaling her family with the tale of her triumph, yelling boom, and then
everyone going like oh wow, that
they're all
contrast.
well. Also, one, like, she's adorable, but like, she shouldn't be there. No child should be regaling anybody with the story, with a war story of how she took down a fucking train, like, with a bomb. And
but then they were shooting a machine gun at me, but then I was saved and it's fine. And it's like, ah!
Like, it's so, like, even though it's very endearing to see her regale this story, it's like, she is a child soldier and came this close to fucking death and definitely killed some people while she was out there. That's not a story that any child should have to tell. Jesus Christ. And everybody in her family is just like, oh, we're so proud. And it's just like, ah!
You did so good. And then we get into, you're a good
I mean, it's true. No, her actions did save the lives of her fellow soldiers, which in the context of their plight is definitely a good thing. But at the same time, it's just like, this is just nobody.
So fucked up.
This is warped. This is terrible. This is not a thing that should be viewed as good. She should not be on the front lines at all.
But
none
she's
of these
bringing
children.
honor to the family because this is the only way that you can make things better for yourself.
And this is when we find out that she and Reiner are cousins, which is like it suddenly explains, like, we know that all the kids in the program like think the world of Reiner, but it suddenly explains why she in particular is like, hey, are you okay? Like, and why she always looks like she just thinks clearly. She loves him to the moon and back.
Oh, yeah.
And it suddenly explains why. It's like, oh, because they're family.
This makes all of the sense.
They are family.
She has known him for longer than any of them.
And it's why Reiner would also risk being overheard talking to Falco, being like, that's why we gotta keep her out of this. Like, yeah, all of a sudden that makes a lot of sense. And upon a first watch, this whole sequence was super interesting because, I don't know about you, but like looking at Bertholdt and Reiner in particular, in the early seasons, for some reason, I always pictured them as orphans. Because so many of the kids in training were orphans or, couldn't rely on people to take care of them for one reason or another. So in my head, they were always orphans.
You don't think about them having a family, especially when you find out that they are from someplace else.
Yeah.
But then when you find out what is going on in that someplace else, it's like, oh no, it makes perfect sense to use children to leverage their family's behavior.
Yeah, and, yeah. Jesus Christ. Oh.
This show is fucked up.
Well,
anyway, let's talk more about how
real world.
fucked up it is.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, Reiner, there's like, don't ask him to talk about his time on the island. Like, even if it wasn't classified, he should. No, I'll tell you. I'll tell you all about these people on the island. There were.
We get the tale.
We get the potato demon. Poor Sasha.
Sasha, the great and terrible.
And it's just like, and they were disrespectful, and they didn't even think about it, and they
hard-headed
stole food.
guy. This
and
one
then
guy who really just cared about the approval of other people around him, and this other guy who would just, like, plow straight ahead without a second thought, and the idiots who followed him.
And then this person who cared so much about this food, and then when they were called out, they didn't see what the problem was, and they offered to split it, and they offered much less than half. There were all sorts of people there. It's like, I thought they were all bad people.
Yeah, And again, talking about the visual components of this episode, it's this slow push in on Reiner as the music, and yeah, it basically builds to a crescendo as he says there were all sorts of people there. It was I was basically living in hell the entire time, and it's such an interesting scene building up to the moment where he refers to them all as people, and he refers to them all as people multiple times.
Yeah,
and
as opposed to those demons, which is or monsters,
those
which is what most
demons,
of
devils, and it does not sit right with anybody there that the people on the island are referred to as people.
Well, and Gabby, you said all sorts of people,
aren't they all bad?
Were all bad. And it's just like, oh, and his mom's just like, because at the end of his tirade, the shutters blow open because there's a winter storm, and she just closes the shutters and goes, yes, they're all terrible people. We don't talk about it. Like,
yeah.
Cut to one of the weirdest fucking scenes in the show.
Yes, and this is probably the one bit of the episode that doesn't work. I think it's like the one bit in the episode that like genuinely counts as a shortcoming of the episode.
We both kind of went.
We get a hard cut from this scene of everybody looking at Reiner from the family table. You know, after his mom has this moment of like, "Hey, look, fucking zip it, everybody! You're upsetting my son. Zip it." To one of the soldiers who had experienced PTSD committing suicide by jumping off his roof. But the cut is
so abrupt.
It's so abrupt and it's so out of place that we both watched this scene and we were like, what the hell just happened?
Like it's almost cut like comedy because it's immediately short. It's a very abrupt cut. It's a silhouette on a roof in the middle of the night so that all you can tell is that it's an adult man. He jumps off as there's a thunderclap, and the thunderclap sound effect isn't even allowed to finish before we cut to the next scene. So you almost laugh because it's so fucking abrupt. Like, what the fuck was that?
First time we had to rewind it upon the first time we watched this episode because we were like, what the hell was that?
Because that was me going, like, I immediately cottoned on, like, oh shit, I think one of the soldiers with PTSD just committed suicide. And I was like, what the fuck?
I thought it was Reiner who, like me at Thanksgiving, is like, I just need a minute away from my family. And him just being like, bleh.
I'll heal. So it's one of those moments of like, what? And it's not till later, after another conversation, where we have, I believe it's Gabby and Reiner walking by and chatting about, yeah, you know, your
feels like you're lying.
Yeah. Like, your mom seemed upset. Well, yeah, her son left a boy and returned a man. Like, things changed. And they walk by this crowd of people, and the camera lingers on the crowd of people going, yeah, it's one of the soldiers. He committed suicide. And we're just like, well, that was abrupt.
Yeah.
What? Just that scene on the rooftop. And the question is, because I don't think that was by design, and the question that we were talking about before we sat down to record was that a network issue, and was the issue we're out of time, find a place to cut a second or two, or was it we can't linger on this content, this is a show meant for teenagers?
Yeah.
Because this is a show aimed at the teenage boy demographic.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you look at how carefully constructed pretty much everything else in this episode is, and this is the one thing that sticks out like a sore thumb. And so it was either presented to be this abrupt, to like on purpose as a way to really be jarring and to really take you out of the moment, and to really like shock you, I guess. Yeah. Or it was meant to be longer. It was meant to linger. And the way it was cut ended up being a broadcast constraint and not an artistic choice. And I think after watching the episode a second time, we both kind of agree that it was most likely a broadcast constraint because everything else in the episode is super good. And this is the one thing that we're like, what the fuck?
It felt like, and it felt that way because it was a very, it was a very, I don't want to say utilitarian scene. It was just short as hell. Cut to the dude, steps off the roof. What really struck me is that, again, the thunderclap hit when he stepped off, and the thunderclap sound effect wasn't allowed to finish. It cut off. It felt like we were missing 1 or 2 seconds on both sides of that scene, like they'd just taken it and gone, yep.
Yeah.
Just keep the salient bits. We can't build up to it, and we can't let it settle for some reason. Because I think if we'd let that thunderclap play out and let it settle for even just a second more, that would have made a difference.
Yeah. Like I said,
just
I feel like
editing things.
I feel like the camera was meant to linger on the scene for a little bit longer. And whether that was him, whether it was meant to linger longer with him on the roof or with him off the roof, I don't know.
I'd say both, honestly.
Yeah.
It feels like we were missing a bit on each end.
Yeah. It's, like I said, it's
weird.
The actual content is devastating and it's really sad. But the way it's presented is so incongruous with everything else that's in the episode in terms of like quality and timing and just carefully constructed filmmaking that it's the one thing in the episode that really sticks out and doesn't work.
And again, it's a lot of comedy is about surprise or subversion of expectations. And so the fact that all of this is constructed and we've had this scene where we see Reiner just kind of for a little bit, and then we just have this big, and then we're done. Again, it hits like comedy, even though it really, really super isn't. And that, I think, is very much not what they were going for.
No.
But you can't not have that setup, because then you have the payoff of this person couldn't take it anymore and ended their life. Like, it's not fucking funny. And the way that it was cut gets that that laugh when there shouldn't be one. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the singing telegram from Clue, which is cut to be a comedy, but that's supposed to be abrupt and ridiculous. This is not, but was also cut in a very similar fashion.
Yeah. Again, when you consider the pacing of the rest of the episode,
this was just weird.
This was the one thing that didn't make sense. And so I don't think we're going to linger on it anymore. It's just like, this is the one thing in the episode that does not gel with the rest of what's presented. Although,
also,
again,
it's fucking tragic.
the story beat, it's important because it paints a picture of what life is like for everybody living in these internment zones.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, so, Gabby and Reiner do have this one-on-one as they're walking, and she basically says, hey, it feels like you're lying about stuff. And he's like, what would I be lying about? See ya.
It's fine, everything's fine. I have a meeting to go to, so I'm gonna go to that meeting, and I will see you later.
And so, there's a little Titan meeting where Zeke and the rest of the Titan shifters, they're sitting down and having a little powwow together, and they're basically talking about, like, hey, why is it that you want to go back? And he's like, I've got 1 year to basically fix my mistake, and this is something that's necessary. And Reiner backs him up and is like, hey, if this is something that is going to help our motherland, then we have to do it. But again, everything that's said in this meeting, is also said clearly with the knowledge that they're being listened, that that the room is bugged and everything they're being said is probably being recorded and definitely being listened to.
Because they've got where's the brass? Not in this room. The line is specifically not in this room.
Which is Zeke's way of telling everybody, hey, watch what you fucking say right now, because we're not alone. Mm-hmm. And Maga basically picks up on that. And he's like, oh yeah, nothing suspicious going on here except that one thing. And so it's one of those things where, again, like we said, the silhouette earlier in the episode, watching them, it could very well be somebody from the island. It could very well be spies in the resistance, or it could just be reinforcing that the government is always watching them and always has eyes and ears on them. And so even if they wanted to participate in the rebellion, there's very little chance they could get away with it, because the military is always keeping very close tabs on them.
The fact that they already lost several of the Titans and they're like, we can't afford to lose anymore, we're not gonna do it, means that the second you even come into contention for inheriting a Titan power, that's it.
Yeah. But we also get a couple other world building tidbits.
Again!
One of the reasons why our Titan count was off last time was because there's somebody called the Warhammer Titan! So it's the Tiber family, and they are apparently a very affluent Eldian family who is regarded with a lot of great renown because of the power of the Warhammer Titan. And apparently the
Passed down through the Armstrong family for generations.
Apparently the Warhammer Titan was instrumental in basically the divide of
shunting them off to the island and building the walls and all that. Instrumental in winning that conflict.
Yeah. And
so that, I think, is our big bad for the season, our powerhouse, because Colossal is down and
Armin
in Armin's hands, and
Berserker
we know that Reiner can be beaten. It has nearly happened more than once. It's only a matter of time. I don't think he's going to get a chance to, a little prediction territory, but I don't think he's going to get a chance to pass that power down. I think he's going to get killed.
Maybe. I don't know. They're doing a lot of setup, so whether or not he'll actually get to pass his power on to anybody is up in the air.
Question.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to go with no. I don't think he will. I think he will get killed in battle.
Yeah. I mean, it's entirely possible that during his showdown with Eren, Eren
that may or may not happen.
Yeah, that may or may not happen. Eren could very well get the upper hand. Or hell, Eren might not get the chance. It could be military tech from a completely different country who's decided to take up arms against Marley anyway.
I'm not kidding when I said I would have laughed my ass off if Reiner had bit it in the first episode.
I'm very glad he didn't.
Yeah,
but
I would have lost my shit.
Well, again,
just there he goes.
I mean, we learned it very early in season 1. This is and that sadly got reinforced in this episode with Ymir's unceremonious end. This is not a series.
Safe.
Yeah, this is not a series that's afraid to kill people. And even though throughout season 2,
it went for Armin and made us fear it. They're okay, there's the, and again, season 1 was just and there goes Eren. Oh wait, okay. We're not going to get another fake out for anyone.
Season 2 and 3, we actually emerged relatively unscathed. The biggest loss in season 3 was Irvin. And yeah, we got a lot of other side characters and we're sad to see them go. But in terms of our core group of characters, we really didn't lose that many throughout season 2 and 3. So it's the final season.
Hanji was iffy for a minute there.
Yeah.
Saved by the glasses.
I hate to say it, we're overdue. And it sucks to have Ymir killed off in such an unceremonious way, but it's a reminder, hey, we're not messing around anymore. We're going for it. So I'm like, oh boy. But yeah, so again, that's kind of the end of this episode is, we get introduced to the concept of the Warhammer Titan and the idea that our group of Titan shifters will do anything to further the agenda of the Marleyan military, or at least that's what they say they're going to do when they know they're being listened to.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anywho, I think the only other thing I have to say about this episode is that there were a couple instances that we noticed of kind of interesting animation. where
Yeah.
it looked borderline rotoscoped.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with rotoscoping.
No.
It's just noticeable when that's not what you usually do.
Yeah, bits where Udo
Was losing his
was
shit.
going off on his rant, and when Gabby was telling her story at the dinner table, like those looked very specifically rotoscoped. And for those of you who don't know, rotoscoping is where
You film a human
Yeah.
doing the motions and you trace over it.
yeah.
And again, it's a legitimate strategy.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely, it's not bad.
yeah.
It just creates a different visual style than we're accustomed to seeing in anime.
Yeah. It tends to be a little looser.
Yeah. If you look at a bit of animation that's rotoscoped versus a bit of animation that's not rotoscoped, you can usually tell the difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it apart from, yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this episode other than it was really well put together. I really liked all the character-driven stuff. With the exception of that one weird ass pacing bit,
Yeah.
I pretty much, and of course, you know, killing off Emir, I really liked pretty
yeah.
much everything in this episode.
This was a very solid episode. And again, we're building our foundation for our, it's not a new setting, but this is where we're functioning now. This is where our story is now. So we're building our foundation. We're doing some world building. We're getting the audience some lore. Like, this is all shit that everyone who lives here would know. But now that the camera lives here outside of flashback, it's time to bring the audience in and make us care about these people and understand the politics of what's going on here. So this makes a lot of sense. This was placed in I want to say the correct position. And you commented on how long before we bring in the people from Parody, the people that we know. I say 5 episodes, 5-6 episodes.
Yeah, I think we're going to be with these folks for a little bit, long enough to make it hurt really, really bad.
And assuming that this is another 24, 26 episode season, because with the exception of season 2, that's Titan's norm.
Yeah.
Assuming that, they can afford to use a quarter to a fifth of it
Yeah.
to get us going, to get us caught up with this group of people, this setting, etc., before they really start to lay into things.
I mean, talking a little bit of like what I wish will happen, it probably won't because we're not allowed to have nice things. And this series,
No.
most likely, in the most positive circumstances, will probably end on a bittersweet note.
At best.
At best.
Because war sucks, guys.
It does. What I'm hoping is that when we catch up with the rest of our boys and girls, I'm hoping that immediate explosive conflict with the characters that we're getting to know is not the first thing that happens. I'm hoping that maybe we can be like, hey, can we come to an understanding and maybe dismantle the Marleyan military-industrial complex that is constantly focusing on, like, conquesting the rest of the world, and using you guys and, you know, to further their own agenda and just generally speaking being terrible.
Yeah.
I hope that's where we're going. I don't know if it is.
I don't think we'll get that.
That would be
If
really
we get-
nice.
if we get that, I don't think it'll be until closer to the end. I do think explosive conflict is where we're going. Like I said earlier, I do think that some of our people are here already. And I also think that the story we got of Emir is not the whole thing. Because history is written by the winners.
You mean Emir?
Emir, the original, the OG Emir.
Not our Emir.
Not our poor dead
Oh.
lesbian queen. Yes.
Boo!
Boo earns. Yeah, but I do think in terms of the genesis of the Titans, in terms of classic OG Emir, I don't think we have the whole story.
No.
Because again, history is written by the victors, and the victors have shown that they are perfectly happy to take all of her descendants and be like, "You're monsters! We're gonna use you!" Like, yikes! So yeah, I think there's more to that. This series is too careful and concise and creative, all those C's, with its world building, for there not to be more to that.
Yeah. really want to know what the Warhammer Titan looks like.
Yes.
I'm
Oh my
excited.
God. Does he have hammers for hands?
Wait,
Or
is
for
he
his
like,
face?
does he have a hammerhead shark head? No one ruined this for him.
Don't say anything.
But anyway, I think that's everything.
Yeah.
We've been going for a while.
Going for over an hour at this point. I
For
think.
a 23-minute episode, and we've been talking about
There
it. for-
was a lot.
Yeah,
It
there
was
was.
dense.
Yeah. Yes. Let us know what you thought of this episode. I'm really excited to keep going with this series. I'm really excited to see where it goes. Even if it's gonna hurt me real bad. Like, the Ymir reveal definitely was like a fucking backhand. Oh, like, hey.
Were you having a good day?
Fuck off. So that's upsetting, but I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the series, how the rest of the series will continue to bash me in the face and the heart. But yeah, let us know what you thought of this episode, and on that note, Katie, where can people go if
I
they
don't
want to keep
have
up
a
with
fun
you?
prompt for that.
I don't
have a fun question for you guys to answer. I know we
Because-
usually end with fun questions, but my God, there was just so much, and it's all tragic. So we don't have any fun questions. Make up your own fun, tasteful, non-spoilery questions and answer them. That's fine.
How about if you're going to do an AU fluff story with Attack on Titan characters?
Didn't we have a high school one already?
Yes, there is a junior Attack on Titan, and then there's like Chibi Attack on Titan. But if you're going to do your own like AU with all these characters, what's the premise of your AU? Everything's okay, no one's gonna die fanfiction.
And also, if all you say is just like coffee shop AU or high school AU, you have to fucking sell it to me.
I like coffee shop AU.
Oh yeah, no, but coffee shop AU as a comment in and of itself is not enough.
Yeah.
You have to fucking sell it to me. Who's the proprietor? Who's the problem customer? What are our ships?
Yeah.
Who's the rival business?
Since they already have the like middle school Attack on Titan thing, if you are gonna do with the high school AU, you're gonna have to tell us what club everybody's in, like specifically.
And if you're gonna do the college AU, you have to tell us everyone's majors and who is rooming with who.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to do additional shtick, like, they're all drama students in the hospital, and they've all got to get ready for the big show. Yeah, it's like High School Musical, but Attack on Titan.
Oh no, let's be real. They are all drama kids. They're all theater kids, and suddenly this makes so much more sense.
Or they're all members of the track team, or something. You're gonna have to do some homework since there's already a series.
Don't just
of all
give
that.
us the premise. Give us the actual legwork.
How about you? What's your fix-it AU?
Oh God. I don't have one.
I'm gonna go with musical theater student.
I love everyone. Who's
Oh
drama
my
kids.
gosh, the cast of Attack on Titan having to put on Les Mis. Shut up, give it to me, please.
Isn't that kind of what's happening anyway?
Yes! It was a deliberate choice. Oh, if I could see my boy Reiner play my boy Javert. Yes!
Oh my God. Okay.
Okay, so let us know, what are your fix-it AUs for this definitely tragic series that we're watching? Do you need a minute to come up with yours?
I'm dead now. No, I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna leave it to the comments.
All right,
I'm
let
gonna
us
leave
know.
it to the comments because Les Mis has fucking slain me.
Or they could put on Phantom. I'm not picky. Anyway, yeah, let us know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Katie, where can people go if they want to keep up with you?
Then we gotta fix it at you somewhere on AO3. You can follow me all over the social medias as well as on YouTube and Twitch at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. If you like reaction videos to things that are not horror related, they live on that channel. I am also on a podcast called On The Point. It is an Overwatch and Overwatch League podcast. It is currently on hiatus because so is the League, but we're definitely keeping up with signing news, and Jake has returned to the Outlaws, and I'm a little floored, but all in good ways. So yes, check that out. It's a good time.
And I'm Megan Salinas. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. I do a Lost retrospective podcast called No Love Lost, where my co-host Will Link loves Lost, and I don't, and we talk about it. And if you want to hear us both talk about Rooster Teeth related productions, head on over to Rooster Team Radio on your podcast app of choice. Ruby's coming back on February 6th. So
One fear!
15 of them,
15
remember?
fears. 15 fears. The fact that it's coming back is one fear.
Oh boy. But yeah, so please check those out. Be sure to follow Silver Screams at Silver_Screams on Twitter and Instagram. Like us on Facebook, all that jazz. Thank you guys so much. And we have one more announcement before we go.
As always, we end with the important things. We are still in the middle of a global fucking pandemic, so wear a mask. Anytime you go outside, doesn't matter how far you're going or what you're planning on doing, even if it's just to get the mail or get the delivery that the lovely Postmates person dropped off or walk your dog, wear a fucking mask. Because you cannot guarantee that you will not run into another human being, and masks protect you a little bit and everyone else a lot, and that's kind of the point. So, anytime you step outside your door, wear a mask. Support your essential workers, be patient with your essential workers. They don't have the choice to stay at home, and they are making your life easier, so support them, be kind to them. That goes to post office people too, because the post office is still suffering from shenanigans, so be patient with the post office. They're still backed up from the holidays, just, kind of be chill about it. It's okay. Support the post office, buy stamps. We're doing our best here. Thank you for voting. Holy shit. Thanks again, Georgia. All y'all. Thank you for voting. Yay. Black Lives Matter. Black LGBTQIA lives matter. Black trans lives matter. Black Lives Matter. That has not changed. That is not going to change. Black Lives Matter. Take care of each other, you guys. Just take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. That's the only way we're gonna get through this. Take care of each other and be kind. And remember that we love you.
Stay safe out there, everybody. Thank you again so much for watching. We will see you all next time.